The world watches with bated breath. Russia, a nuclear superpower, has rewritten its playbook for Armageddon. Gone are the days of nuclear weapons as a last resort, a deterrent held in reserve. In their place is a chilling new doctrine: preemptive strikes, even in the face of conventional attacks. This is not a drill. This is the reality we now face. The stakes could not be higher. The very survival of our civilization hangs in the balance. Russia's new posture has shattered decades of uneasy peace, plunging the world into a level of uncertainty not seen since the darkest days of the Cold War. The potential consequences are too horrific to contemplate, yet contemplate them we must. To ignore this threat is to invite its realization. We must understand the nature of this new danger, its potential impact, and the paths to averting catastrophe. This is not a time for complacency. This is a time for clear eyes, steady nerves, and an unwavering commitment to peace. The future of humanity may depend on it. In November 2024, Russia unveiled its new nuclear doctrine. It sent shockwaves across the globe. No longer content with the defensive posture of the past, the Kremlin embraced a more aggressive stance. Preemptive strikes, once unthinkable, were now on the table. The context for this chilling shift is clear: the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. Russia views NATO's support of Ukraine as a direct threat to its own security. The Kremlin sees the West encroaching on its sphere of influence, and it is prepared to use its nuclear arsenal to defend its interests. International reaction to Russia's announcement was swift and unambiguous. The United States and its NATO allies condemned the new doctrine as reckless and irresponsible. Fears of a renewed arms race spiraled, casting a long shadow over any hopes for a diplomatic solution in Ukraine. President Biden called the doctrine a dangerous escalation and a threat to global security. French President Emmanuel Macron warned of a new era of nuclear instability. The world held its breath, bracing for the worst. The unthinkable: a nuclear attack on American soil. Once the stuff of nightmares, this terrifying scenario has become a chilling possibility in the wake of Russia's new nuclear doctrine. To grasp the potential human cost of such an attack, we must confront the cold, hard facts. Simulations conducted by Newsweek using data based on Russia's formidable R-36M2 SS-18 Satan intercontinental ballistic missile paint a grim picture. A single one of these 20-megaton behemoths, detonated at an altitude of 27,810 feet, could inflict catastrophic damage on major US cities. The numbers are staggering. In Washington, D.C., an estimated 1,638,140 people would perish instantly, with another 2,029,390 suffering severe injuries. New York City would fare even worse, with a projected death toll of 5,458,130 and 5,601,470 injured. Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, no major urban center would be spared. The blast radius of such a weapon is immense, a fiery inferno at the point of detonation, vaporizing everything in its path. Outward from this hellish core, a wave of unimaginable destruction, leveling buildings, igniting fires, and leaving behind a wasteland of rubble and despair. Even as the specter of nuclear war looms large, the conflict in Ukraine rages on. Recent developments on the battlefield have only served to heighten tensions and raise the stakes in this deadly standoff. In a move that sent shockwaves through Moscow, Ukraine launched its first-ever strike on Russian soil using US-supplied ATACMS missiles. These long-range weapons, capable of reaching targets deep inside Russia, mark a significant escalation in Ukraine's capabilities. Russia, in turn, responded with a show of force, deploying additional troops to the front lines in the Kursk region. The Kremlin denounced Ukraine's ATACMS strike as a provocation orchestrated by the United States and vowed to retaliate. The Biden administration, while acknowledging the provision of ATACMS missiles to Ukraine, denied any involvement in the strike on Russian territory. The White House maintained its position of supporting Ukraine's right to defend itself, but reiterated its commitment to preventing a wider conflict with Russia. Section 5. A World on Edge: Global Reactions to Russia's Nuclear Gamble. The world watched with a mixture of apprehension and outrage as Russia unveiled its new nuclear doctrine. Condemnation from Western leaders was swift and unequivocal, with many accusing Moscow of reckless brinkmanship and jeopardizing global security. The United Nations Security Council convened for an emergency session, but any hope of a unified response was quickly dashed by Russia's veto power. China, while expressing concern over the heightened nuclear rhetoric, stopped short of condemning Russia's actions, instead calling for dialogue and de-escalation. Across Europe, a sense of unease settled in. Memories of the Cold War, once relegated to history books, resurfaced with chilling clarity. NATO members, while reaffirming their commitment to collective defense, grappled with the daunting task of deterring a nuclear-armed adversary willing to contemplate their use. From the streets of Berlin to the halls of power in Brussels, the message was clear. Russia's nuclear saber-rattling had crossed a dangerous line, escalating tensions to a level not seen in decades. The world held its breath, hoping against hope that cooler heads would prevail. Section 6. The Ghost of Hiroshima. Remembering the Stakes. As the world grapples with the escalating nuclear tensions between Russia and the West, it's essential to remember the horrific consequences of nuclear war. The ghosts of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, cities forever scarred by the atomic bombings of 1945, serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of such conflicts. The images are seared into our collective memory. The blinding flash, the mushroom cloud billowing into the sky, the utter devastation left in its wake, hundreds of thousands of lives extinguished in an instant, countless others condemned to slow, agonizing deaths from radiation sickness. We must never forget the lessons of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Nuclear weapons are not tools of war, they are instruments of annihilation, capable of inflicting unimaginable suffering on an unprecedented scale. Their use must never be contemplated, let alone considered a viable option in any conflict. The very survival of our species depends on our ability to prevent another nuclear catastrophe. We must summon the collective will to reject the path of militarism and embrace dialogue, diplomacy, and a shared commitment to peace. Section 7. Could this really happen? Assessing the risk of nuclear war. The question that haunts the minds of many: could a nuclear war actually happen? It's a chilling thought, one that we'd rather not confront. Yet, in the face of escalating tensions and reckless rhetoric, we must grapple with this unsettling possibility. The risk of nuclear war, while still considered low by most experts, is undeniably higher today than it has been in decades. Russia's revised nuclear doctrine, its willingness to entertain the use of such weapons in response to conventional attacks, has shattered the long-held taboo surrounding their use. Several factors contribute to this heightened risk. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine, with its potential for miscalculation and escalation, remains a major flashpoint. The erosion of trust between Russia and the West, fueled by years of animosity and mistrust, further complicates the situation. Adding to the complexity is the rise of cyber warfare and the potential for disruptive technologies to spark unintended consequences. A cyber attack, misattributed or misinterpreted, could trigger a chain of events leading to catastrophic consequences. Section 8. The Path Forward. Diplomacy in the Shadow of Armageddon. In these perilous times, as the world teeters on the brink of a nuclear abyss, diplomacy remains our only hope. The path forward, however fraught with challenges, must prioritize dialogue, de-escalation, and a relentless pursuit of peaceful solutions. Engagement with Russia, despite the profound mistrust that exists, is essential. Channels of communication, however strained, must be kept open. We must strive to understand each other's security concerns, however misguided they may seem, and seek common ground where possible. Arms control, once a cornerstone of international security, must be revitalized. We need a new framework for managing nuclear weapons in the 21st century, one that addresses emerging threats and fosters greater transparency and trust. The international community must speak with a unified voice, condemning nuclear brinkmanship and reaffirming the illegality of any use of these abhorrent weapons. A global consensus on the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear war is paramount. Section 9. A world held hostage. The uncertain future of global security. As the year draws to a close, the world finds itself at a crossroads. The spectre of nuclear war, once a distant nightmare, has re-emerged as a chilling possibility. Russia's aggressive nuclear posture, coupled with the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, has cast a long shadow over global security. The future remains uncertain, fraught with danger and the potential for miscalculation. The stakes could not be higher. The survival of our civilization, the very future of humanity, hangs in the balance. Yet, even in these dark times, we must not succumb to despair. The human spirit, our capacity for reason and compassion, has overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges before. We must summon that same spirit now, embracing dialogue, diplomacy, and a shared commitment to peace. The path forward will be arduous, demanding courage, resilience, and an unwavering belief in our shared humanity. The alternative, a world consumed by nuclear fire, is unthinkable. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe.